Hello YouTube, it's time to play another Doom Snap map. So I'm going to be playing one of my own maps, Orbital Outrage, and it's an Orbital Outrage indeed that I could not upload this map to, well, it's not really a competition per se, but to be an entrant in the Snapshot 6 challenge. So the issue I was having with this map here is that after completing the map, it would not upload onto the server, and I contacted Bethesda, and my pleas went unanswered, and this seemed to be an issue that sort of struck many other PS4 users at the time. They had snap maps built, they couldn't upload them. Those who tried to write beg and plea and ask for help on the Bethesda forums were met with deafening silence, and I figured the only way to really share this map would be to play it myself. So we're going to go ahead and play some Orbital Outrage. Now, the theme of the Snapshot 6 challenge was to create a map with atmosphere. And I spent maybe a couple of afternoons building this map, so it wasn't a huge time commitment on my part, so I'm not terribly upset that I can't upload it. More annoyed that I can't upload it. And in fact, I probably spent more time just trying to figure out ways to get this to upload and typing out on the Bethesda forum than I actually did making the doggone map. So that's all I can say. Just exhausted exhale. So let's go ahead and play this map, shall we? And I'll show you guys what would have been going on with this. All right, here we go. This is Orbital Outrage. Ah, doggone it. So basically it's kill as many Barons as you can in 10 minutes. And every time I hit that switch, a new Baron appears and I gotta kill him. And of course I get the crappy rifle. And you can throw ammo packs though. But basically like the, here we go. Oh, and the timer pauses every time you kill a Baron. But I just figured for the atmosphere, I just have it be out in the middle of space. That was the topic of SS6, by the way, is just create a map with atmosphere. The neat thing I thought about this map was that all of these grids light up when you stand on them. So like you can run around and they light up, but they eventually kind of disappear, like after 5 seconds. I don't know why I found that so fascinating at the time, but that's basically what I did with this map. So, yay, lighting up grids. Yep. So that's that. And then of course you've got these this binary stuff randomly running down the walls here. This ones and zeros. So that's kind of the atmosphere I was going for. And you got this, of course, which is like the not necessarily random, but effectively random weapon selection. So when I hit the switch, whatever is showing on the screen there is the weapon I'm going to get. But it's not completely random. It's running through a cycle. And every time the BFG shows up on the screen, you'll hear a ping. So the challenge, if you're trying to get the BFG, is to sort of gauge when that ping is going to happen, or when you know that the BFG is going to be on that screen, and then try to hit the switch at that time. And there's like, when you go to hit the switch, there's this like slow animation that your guy goes through before he actually hits the stop button, and it's sort of just getting a feel for how long it takes to go through that animation. So like maybe here. There we go. And then, yeah, makes quick work of him. So that's the best way to do it, is if you can get the BFG over and over again, because that only took me like 4 seconds. But you get some crap weapon. Huh. Well, like the static rifle. Oh boy, you're really screwed, because you're going to take up like 2 minutes to kill this stupid Baron, which is why I put a couple Berserks here. You get 2 Berserks you can use during the match in case you get a really terrible weapon. Yeah, and every time you hit the switch, it spawns another Baron. Ah. Pistol's actually not the worst weapon. Static rifle is by far the worst. And for your grenade, you don't have a grenade, but you have an ammo box you throw in case you run out of ammo. I'm gonna try to save that last Berserk power-up. Doggone it. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't try to go for the BFG every time, I'll just go for whatever weapon. It also gives you 10,000 extra points if you get the BFG though, so if you're trying to rack up a huge score, the best thing to do is to get good at hitting the switch and getting the BFG. Because not only will you be able to save a ton of time in killing these Barons, but you'll also get a 10,000 point bonus, which is pretty significant. So if you're just a master of timing that BFG switch, or, you know, you can get major points. Oh god, jeez. I can't believe it. I'm so bad. I'm just gonna get the freaking thing. Yeah. Well, apparently I'm a master of not getting good weapons here, but I swear, there's more than just those bad ones. Lightning gun. Yep. Actually, I only spent about a couple of afternoons building this map, so I'm not too terribly upset that I couldn't upload it. I feel really bad for people like CJ the Rednon, who actually did have a really awesome Snapshot 6 map. That looks like he spent a lot of time on. But this map is actually fairly simple. Most of the assets of this map were just sort of copied and pasted. Yeah, and that's basically all it is. It just all takes place in this one module. One neat thing though is it is multiplayer, so you could have you could have had it up to 4 players. Oh, chainsaw. And with the 4 players, you actually get, for every player who's playing the map at a time, you get that many Barons that show up. So if you had 4 players, you get 4 Barons, 2 players, 2 Barons, and the round doesn't end until all the Barons are dead. So it would have actually been a kind of a fun little co-op map too. And my goal is to try to make more good co-op maps. Whoops. There we go. Yeah, and oh, I'm stuck now. See, I should have saved that, I should have saved one of those Berserks, because now I'm stuck with the stupid static rifle. And every time you grab a crappy gun, the voice will say, difficulty increased. Just to remind you, in case you forgot, that you got a crappy gun. and out of ammo. So this is why I made the grenade function the extra ammo box. See if I can get the BFG again. Oh, doggone it. See, when I was setting this up, when I was lining up which weapons were going to be showing up in which sequence, I had it so that the BFG, on either side of getting the BFG, you had the pistol and the static rifle. So if you are off by just 1/10 of a second, you, on getting that BFG, you're going to end up with a really crappy weapon. So there is some danger associated with going for the BFG. Whoops. Oh yeah, and by the way, Z Manzilla, if you're watching this, you have my permission and blessing to go ahead and, I know you're talking about playing the SS6 maps that didn't get published, or perhaps were published now for PS4. Another one. But yeah, you have my blessing to mention this map if you haven't already done your PS4 plays. Which I don't know if you have or not, but if you haven't. If you already have, then don't worry about it. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what is causing this level to not upload. It does have an incredibly high amount of memory, is one notable thing. I don't know if that's affecting it or not. Actually, I was able to get this map to publish, but what I had to do was I had to delete all of these grid squares that light up, and I had to delete all of the scrolling text on the walls. So basically I had to take out everything that was interesting about this level in order to get it to publish. So I don't know. Maybe I'll keep this general concept and just move it over into a different map sometime. That is the concept of having that random weapon selection switch. And maybe I'll just plug it into a different type of a map. Maybe Brothers Keeper 2, if I ever make that. Brothers Keeper 2.
Difficulty increased.
Oh, Electric Boogaloo. Yeah. It's really strange. It's only this map that I have issues publishing. I tried publishing some other maps that I have. I was actually able to publish my very first map that I ever made, which will never see the light of day, called Vacation in Hell. And that map, you know, was a pretty big map, but it published no problem. I was also able to, you know, download some other maps that other authors had published, and I was able to republish them. So I don't know if it has anything to do with file size. I think it's just something about this map in particular, or maybe it was just something about the time that I was working on it, because it affected so many other people at the same time. I really don't know what it is. All right, BFG. Oh yeah, and when you have the BFG, you can throw health kits. That's your time to recover health if your health is low. Again with those weak weapons. And you get 3 lives, by the way. And in fact, sometimes I think if you're going for high score, one strategy is, since there's no point bonus to dying, if you get a static rifle or you know, a really crappy weapon and you're out of berserks to bail you out, then one thing you can do is just die, because it actually takes less time to just die and spawn back in and get a better weapon than it does to just try to kill a demon with a static rifle. And of course, once you're out of lives, the game ends. Oh, and once you get close to this switch, I had it so that your character slows down, because, you know, just because it made it easier to hit the switch when you're at half speed than when you're at full speed. Sometimes it's, when you're at full speed, it, you know, there's a lot of sort of jittering around the switch and not being able to hit it, so I just had to, you see the slowdown right there. Alright, super shotgun. Oh, there we go. 63,000. It's not the best score I've gotten, but it's not terrible. We'll take a quick little look here into the editor mode. See, you can see my network 68, that's not very high. Objects 40, that's not very high. Memory 83, that may be high. I don't normally see the memory get quite that high, but take a look at what's going on in here. See, each one of these squares is actually a little box trigger that once you're over it, it lights up with that white decal, and there's a timer for 5 seconds, and if anybody walks back into that square, it'll pause the timer, and it will only resume until everybody's left. So, and as you can see, there's a whole doggone room full of timers. So there's, I don't know, probably like maybe over 100 timers in this room. And then with the walls here, you've got just basically a repeater hooked up to a bunch of random relays, which will sort of randomly pump out these little ones and zeros here. But it'll do it in a way that it makes a scrolling effect down the wall. And I'll show you my, right here. This just determines how many players show up. It just counts how many players spawn in, and then sets booleans to reference how many players are actually in the map, so that it can trigger, later on it'll be able to trigger how many barons spawn in. And then over here I've got my, all this logic here is the random weapon, the weapon switch basically, that starts, every 1/10 of a second it'll change the weapon, and then when you hit the switch it'll test the boolean for whichever weapon you happen to hit it at, and then that's the weapon that it will give all the players actually. So whoever hits that switch needs to be, skilled at it. Otherwise, they might have some angry players who all got stuck with static rifles. And I did that for all the different weapons. So that's it in a nutshell. Super simple concept. So there you have it. Orbital Outrage, the map that no one will get to play except me, apparently. What a shame. I don't know what caused this glitch to happen. Apparently it affected a bunch of other people. Bethesda has been incredibly unhelpful with resolving the issue, which is regrettable. And but supposedly people are still able to, at this point, I believe people are able to continue just sort of building new maps and publishing them, and I haven't heard of any new issues as far as new maps being affected by this weird sort of bug. So I guess it only affected the maps that people were working on at a certain time, certain maps. It's hard to explain. I don't quite understand the mechanics of what is going on with this issue, which is why, you know, it would have been nice to have someone from Bethesda talk to us. Of course, that's not going to happen. But here's my philosophy on it. I think the perfect way to explain this situation is for me to share a parable about the Gordian knot. So, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, the story goes like this: that hundreds of years ago, there was this town in the Persian Empire called Gordia, and what was interesting about this town is that there was this, you know, some say it was 2 trees, others say it was like an ox cart or whatever, but whatever it was, there was this thing of rope, and it was tying up all this stuff in such a crazy way. This knot it's just this big ugly knot with bits and pieces going every which way, all tangled up, just this big ugly mess, right? And the legend was whoever could solve the Gordian knot would surely conquer Asia. And all sorts of wise men would come to this town and look at this knot, and they would try to solve it, and they would, you know, pull at it and push on it and try to unravel it, but nobody could solve this knot. It was unsolvable. You know, everybody tried, people gave it their best, but nobody could solve it. And then one day, Alexander the Great, along his quest to conquer the Persian Empire, came to Gordia, saw this knot, and was told that whoever could solve this knot would go on to conquer Asia. And he stood there and he looked at this complicated mess of a knot. He stood there and he looked at it just for a moment. And then he pulled out his sword and he cut the knot in half. And then he went on in his conquest. And the purpose of that story is that is how I feel about this map and this bug and this weird sort of bullshit going on with the PS4 users not being able to publish. This issue is just a Gordian knot. None of us can really get to the bottom of it or solve it, but what we can do is waste an incredible amount of time trying to figure it out unsuccessfully. And my feeling is I'm just going to be like Alexander the Great, take out my sword and cut the knot, say, I don't know why the hell this issue is an issue, I can't solve it, I'm not going to bother with it, I'm just going to say this map is just never going to be published, accept that fact, and drive forward. And that's my advice to everybody else who unfortunately was in this situation. Honestly, don't let this issue consume you, don't let it waste any more of your precious time. If we're still able to make new maps and publish them, I say just, you know, just take your losses, accept the fact that you can't publish your map, whatever it was. Hopefully you didn't spend too much time on it, and just start building new maps and just leave this in the past. So there you go. That's Orbital Outrage by myself for the Snapshot 6 Challenge. The goal, of course, to create an atmosphere, and I think it kind of did. But anyway, hope you enjoyed watching that. And by the way, if you have a map you'd like to recommend for me to play, go ahead and leave it in the comments below with a map ID. Until next time, peace out.